Thanks so much. I'm really, really excited to be here with you. We've been working on energy efficiency for over a decade. When I first came to Congress, that was the first thing we plunged into, and we sponsored the Homes Act, which ultimately became law as part of the IRA. But water. Oh, yeah. But just in here's the thing that is the moment. Pardon me. We made incredible progress fighting uphill. You remember Waxman-Markey? Energy efficiency that we passed in the House, that was going to account for 40% of the carbon reductions. And wouldn't we be in a better place had we gotten Joe Lieberman in the Senate to vote for it? I got a little thing in my throat, so you're going to have to bear with me. And then we struggled and struggled. We got the IRA passed. And it was the first time in the history of the country where we had public policy and public money backing a policy of efficiency. It worked. 400,000 jobs. $300 billion in private investment. And we were, oh, by the way, reducing carbon emissions. We got to keep that on the down low in the world we're in. But we know that was happening because what we were doing is saving money. We were creating jobs. We were getting the benefit of technology so we could do more with less. What's wrong with that, right? It also reflected to me, we had these years of climate denial that we were fighting. And one of the reasons that I got involved in energy efficiency when I came in 2007 was because I saw that as a place where there was potentially bipartisan capacity to move forward, because we weren't arguing about whether climate change existed or didn't. And we weren't arguing about which is the preferable fuel source. We all have our points of view about that. But it was an area where I could get some of my colleagues, including Dave McKinley, who was a very, very close ally from West Virginia and defender of coal. We could get him to join with me from Green Mountain State of Vermont on working on sensible policies that were going to be beneficial, whether you came from coal country or you came from Green Mountain State of Vermont. And ultimately, we were successful in the IRA, and then everything that you've been working for, everything that you've been advocating for, everything that you've been doing on energy efficiency, you had an opportunity to get a little wind at your back and to prove that it works. So that's the good news. The bad news is that the Trump administration has lost its mind when it comes to climate change. I mean, that's real, and they won, and they are, unfortunately, climate deniers. I mean, I just heard Lee Zeldin on the radio talking about, quote, climate religion, as if that is a way to deny that climate change exists. And look at what happened in Texas. Look at what happened in Vermont with floods the last couple of years. Look what happened in North Carolina. So there is a return to the policymaking levels of some of the great minds of the 17th century. That's what we're dealing with. So that's discouraging. But the reality that can't be denied is that the demand for energy is going up, and it's not going to relent. Climate change is getting more ferocious with its effects. The negative impacts of climate change know no boundaries. Red state, blue state, you're all on the path of something bad that's coming your way with a weather event. And what also can't be denied is that the energy efficiency technologies are more important than ever so that we can meet the energy demand that is increasing. And we can't do it with generation alone. And in fact, 94% of the new energy that was generated in the last 2 years was clean energy and battery storage technology. So you take that out of the equation, including efficiency, then where do you get the power? You can't complete a generating station that's oil or gas or, God forbid, coal in any kind of reasonable period of time. So, you know, stay the course is what we have to do, and what I have to do, and actually what all of us have to do is politically get support back in the Congress where the majority gets it, that there's nothing wrong with a policy that helps us create jobs, save energy, and clean up our environment. So I'm sad to be here in a certain way, because your hard work in those dark years before there was any confidence that energy efficiency really would work, you plowed through that day after day, year after year, session after session, and you ultimately succeeded. And then when you succeeded, you did the work and showed, hey, wait a minute, this is really working. And now we've had the setback with the Trump administration tearing up the IRA. But what we're also seeing is some pushback from Republicans whose districts are now being affected, that projects that they thought were going to be in their district are suddenly they're on the chopping block. So the confidence that I have going forward is that this is a proven way to make progress on jobs, on cost, and on cleaner communities. And the benefits of what you're doing are not a red state, blue state benefit. It helps us achieve what is a common objective, and that is to have the energy we need for a new economy that is requiring more generation. But it's with an understanding that whatever it is we generate, the more of it we can use rather than squander, the more affordable it's going to be, and the better, obviously, for the environment it's going to be. So we've got to stay the course, is the bottom line here. It's not a question of trying to figure out, is this the right course or not? It's not about proving proof of concept. It's about dealing with a political reality that is bizarre, where we're turning our back on this opportunity that's right in front of us. And you know what this says to me, and this is a real struggle across the board right now. So much of the decisions we make in life are whether we're fearful or we're confident. And a country is the same way. Is it fearful or is it confident? And what's happened is a confident country and a confident person does not wake up and deny the problem that is waiting for them. They face it. They don't know whether they'll be able to solve it, but they know they can't run from it or deny it. Climate change is real. What you've been doing is facing that in a confident and practical way. What do we have to do to address it? How do we get more out of what it is we are generating? And that's, by the way, a very hard thing to do. You know, it takes scientists and engineers. It takes organizers. It takes trial and error. It takes financial setbacks, but moving ahead. But the confident person in the confident country, that's what makes life go round. You're dealing with something that's real, it has to be faced. And when you do, as you did with your work and with the IRA, the public support, you created 400,000 jobs. You created investment of $400 billion, and you reduced carbon emissions. And every little bit, every person who did something contributed to that effort. So what we have to do politically is get back to a confidence in this country that the better way to approach climate change is not to deny it, but is to acknowledge it and say, all right, what do we got to do? How are we going to address it? So don't give up at all, because you succeeded. And what we together have to do is get us back to that kind of confident, forward-facing approach that a successful country has to have in order to sustain its success and create opportunity for all Americans. And I am so happy to be part of this winner crowd that is here, that has done so much. And my pledge to you is that as long as you're working on energy efficiency, I'll be working on energy efficiency and public policy that makes your job a bit easier, not easy, but a bit easier and not tougher. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Welch. The timing worked out really great, because you're the perfect speaker for this panel, because this panel is all about trading, finding trade-ups, not trade-offs, and doing so in a business-friendly way.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
I understand that you have maybe time for a question from the audience. Is that still the case? So the
answer is Chris Van Hollen has been a terrific partner on this all along. So
good. Well, that's a good answer.
Yeah.
Question in the audience? I certainly have one. Sure.
No, I just want to thank you, Senator Welch. I mean, you've been a huge proponent of performance contracting, and just so you guys are aware, we've been working on improving state and local government access to performance contracting, and
Right.
It's something that we're going to continue to work on. So we really appreciate your support in our industry and everything you've done for us.
No, thank you. That's the kind of question I like.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I'm in the absence of hands going up. I have a question. So, Senator, you mentioned the flooding in Vermont. I grew up in Graniteville, but I went to high school in Barrie, which is where a lot of those terrible floods took place. How are people doing? First of all, it's been I know it's happened 2 years in a row. So I'm curious how people are doing, and also how are you approaching sort of the reality that those floods were exacerbated by climate change, with your work here in Congress to advance things like energy efficiency?
Yeah, well, first of all, these floods are horrible. If it's your farm, your home, your business, it's really devastating. And what I've seen, we had July 10th, we had floods in 2023, 2024, and then even a few on July 10th in 2025. And it's really heartbreaking because in the immediate aftermath, there is an enormous amount of rallying around. And then folks whose homes are flooded, it's interesting. Cousins that they didn't know they had show up from far away. Friends that they didn't know they had show up. And there's this enormous community effort in the shock of the moment to help muck out that mud. And it's really, really hard and awful. And then in that aftermath, people start going back to their lives. And then if it's your farm and the field has been totally flooded and the crop has totally been destroyed, it's your home that's been wrecked, the pain goes on. And what I have been putting my energy in is trying to come up with a reform for FEMA, because FEMA helps in the immediate aftermath, but then in the long-term recovery, where select boards struggling to get approval to put in a 36-inch culvert because an 18-inch culvert, it just won't do. Same thing will happen next year. Or they're getting hassled about what kind of gravel to use when they are putting the subsurface down to reclaim a road. I've put forward legislation basically about reforming FEMA and putting control much more in hands of local officials, because the decision-making has to be made promptly. The action has to be taken quickly. And you can't do that if you're going through a FEMA Washington-based, or in the case of Vermont, our sign-off person from FEMA was in Puerto Rico. So you've got somebody in the town of Suffolk who was a town clerk and is now trying to figure out how to fix the roads because it's a population of 300. And she's getting a call about the gravel size that was used 12 inches in subsurface before there'll be approval to do it. So this just doesn't work. So what I'm trying to do is make it practical. And the reform really is about having decisions be made and power be distributed locally, because that's where there's a sense of urgency and a sense of accountability versus have it be micromanaged from Washington. But it's very, very painful for families who've been through it, but made more painful when they can't get their phone call answered, where there doesn't seem to be an answer to the obvious question. And where we've had local people that have had more authority, it's gone much better. But bottom line, we got to do something about climate change, not just have it keep on hammering.
Yep. Well, thank you, Senator Welch, for joining us today. I know you've got a busy schedule. I hope you have a great August recess.
Yeah.
And best of luck. And it's always so great to see you. Thanks for stopping by today.
All right. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Yeah.